The tech is all working
This
perfectly,
time?
David.
Yeah,
You're a wizard.
I think that we should have a breath together
Oh, that
before
sounds
we
nice.
start this, because
Lovely.
we've been on it here.
Indeed. Yum.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I guess then the first thing that I want to say is probably hello and welcome to The Evolutionary. My name is David Knox. I'm still your host, and I'm here with my very good friend, Bryce Gill. Bryce is a relating coach, a men's facilitator. Wears a lot of hats. A vocal activator, a ceremonialist. He's an NYU trained actor, a broad spectrum pollinator.
Hey.
He's been called worse. Encouragement specialist, full body poet, and I would add in there personally that he's a conduit for practical wisdom, which is the only kind of wisdom that exists in my worldview. I would also say that he's a very, very dear friend of mine. So thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming to our house and making this all happen.
Yeah, well, it was a team effort, I'll tell you.
Indeed. A mighty team.
Fortunately, no one had to witness the last 2 hours of us running around getting this together. Thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany's our studio audience, as are the kiddies.
Talk about a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Tell you about a lot of hats.
That's right. All right. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about good news and fresh perspectives. And this is a segment that I want to do in all of my shows. And maybe we'll do some more of it in the after party. But I think it's important because, if you haven't got the memo by now, the mass media and the social media and the algorithms and the everything is trying to tell people that we are headed towards impending apocalypse and all of that. Really, it's very dark. And I don't think that's a fair assessment of the totality of what's going on in humanity. There's a lot of reason to expect that we got this and we're going to pull through. So I just wanted to just share, I figure we'll just share some things that seem interesting. And you had mentioned something before on the technology front about houses.
Yeah, there's well, first of all, it occurred to me the other day that I was sharing with Tiffany that it's called news because it's the new plural. It's the various things that are new.
Okay.
I was like, oh, right, news. That somehow never quite clicked. So
me either.
Right. And so one that is new to me is it's a company called Tekla, and they're building these homes with huge 3D printers that are using soil and I think like hay and sand, and it's basically like Adobe on a massive scale, and building these dome things. And it's just like 2 dome parts of a house in 72 hours. They put up this like 2,000 square foot house or something like this. It was totally amazing. And I don't know exactly how they make it waterproof and these other pieces, but it's like seeing the through line of something like a 3D printer that I always had a gripe with because it was using plastic to make things, and then seeing it through to a large scale and using soil and building homes with it. I was like, okay, here we go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and now they're 3D printing organs. So I mean,
Oh shit.
I've heard this.
Oh my god.
I don't have any details, but evidently the medium that you print with, as long as you can get the stuff to stick together.
Well, and that makes sense because like the first
better.
artificial heart was like plastic and valves and moving bits.
Yeah, but I think they're doing it with actual live cells.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yo.
Someone can check me. Oh, I'm not Joe Rogan. Where's Jamie, my assistant, my research assistant?
Fact check. Oh, and another hat for Tiffany.
Tiffany, check that out for us, please. I saw a thing. There's this thing called the Mantis, and it's a ship. It's a 185 foot catamaran that this sailor, he's this competitive sailor named Young, Yvonne Borgnon built with a consortium that he put together. And it is solar powered and wind powered, and it collects trash from the sea. And then they separate it out, and then it takes the plastics, and there's a process that has been invented to turn plastic into biodiesel. And so then they use that for all of the hoteling services, which is what the crew uses to basically live on while they're out at sea for months of time. But they actually are focusing on the mouths of rivers. But they are working on the ability to manufacture these, and if we have a big enough fleet of them, we can clean up our oceans.
Yes. One more piece. That reminds me, so there's this Italian artist as well who has been commissioned or created this thing and had these huge slabs of stone donated because there are these dredging fisher boats that just have these huge nets that sweep the bottom of the ocean and pull up absolutely everything, including a bunch of plant life, coral reef, and all kinds of things that they don't want, and then they just toss them wherever. And so he's creating these huge carvings and plopping them on the bottom of the ocean so these dredging nets can't function properly.
Disruptor.
It's almost completely stopped their fishing in that area. So,
I love that. That's freaking awesome. Cool. The other thing that I wanted to share was this idea that I was reading a book by David Sinclair called Lifespan, and near the end of it, he shares perspective about, and I've heard this before from Hans, what was his name? He wrote Factfulness, Hans Rosling, the idea that we're too hyper-focused on population and population control, that the Earth can only sustain a certain number, right? And there's been a lot of analysis put on that, and there's a number that we can sustain. That she can sustain, and the reality of it is it's not really about raw number. There's people who say that the Earth could sustain up to 11, 12, 14, maybe even billion people, but it's not about that. It's about consumption. And so if we have a billion soccer moms from Santa Monica, that's enough to destroy the Earth.
No shade.
But not I'm throwing shade on you. I mean,
just saying.
I love me a soccer mom.
There's some consumption there.
And Santa Monica is an interesting place, but it's about consumption. And so as we sort out our technology and we address the way we live, and become more sustainable in the way we live with technology, we can actually. The Earth can sustain a lot more people in a lot more ecologically friendly way. And at the same time, population growth has slowed and is probably going to plateau because with higher education or with better education of the population and with better income opportunities, people tend to have less children. And so there are countries where they've actually started going down in population. And so that's expected to happen worldwide at some point around, I think, 11 billion people. And so, we're going to turn a corner here pretty soon. And it's going to be fast enough? Is the ecology resilient enough to then rebound? Or have the doomsday scientists that say we've gone too far and the chain reaction is just going to collapse. Is that going to happen? That all that's to be seen. But point is there's reason to believe that we could actually turn it around.
And there's always things to be afraid of. There always has been.
Oh my God.
There's no shortage.
No, it's always out there. It's part of our existence.
You can find any evidence for really anything.
Right.
Because it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. Well, and the thing about humans is we're fucking amazing.
Yes.
But look at all the things that we do in the face of impossibility.
Right.
And it happens anyway.
That's right.
I mean, they were writing about how impossible it is to fly a plane 5 years after, with equations and shit, 5 years after the Wright brothers.
Right.
Right. So that, that this is going to happen. someone's going to figure it out, and then science catches up. That's how it often happens.
Right.
Someone does something, and then they go, "How did that happen? Figure it out."
Let's adapt. Let's evolve, if you will.
That's a good idea. All right, let's talk about you.
Oh, my favorite topic.
I know.
Let's do it.
Well, it's the one you're best at speaking about, I've noticed. So
it's really the only one I have a true authority on.
All right, let's do that. So something I like to do is I like to talk about what you do, but I like to kind of back into it because it's really more interesting to understand why you do it. And so for anyone who shows up in this world with an intention to help people or to make it better or anything like that, there's generally a belief behind that. And I know that you've given some thought to this because I asked you to. I knew there was a part. What is the underlying belief that drives what you do?
It came through in a cacao ceremony once upon a time that the belief is essentially this, that there is a river of love underneath all of the angular structures that we've built to navigate this plane. And as long as we keep, I think of it as like a long straw down in that river of love so we can keep an access. And
that's a good visual.
A nice suck of love. Is that inappropriate? And have access to that, and remember that is what is under it all. What is actually, if you track any of the things that we love to call evil or the bad guys, if you track the behavior back and back and back and back, someone loves someone so much that they start a series of behaviors. And so love being at the core of all things is a strong belief, and also connection being primary. I believe that is a huge part of how we're wired, and that it is the conduit for that love and the solution, if you will, to so many of the things that we are calling problems. Is if we can connect to other humans and to ourselves, so many things dissipate. And the connection to self is a really, really big one that is outsourced, farmed out, sold. Other things instead of are sold, and to us, and so we get a little moment of it, of like, oof, I'm a part of something. I'm a part of something that is a community. Yeah. That is actually a brand that is selling a product instead. And so it's a moment of it, because there are other humans that also own the same thing, but it isn't actually the thing. It's a piece of it brought to you by someone.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. And what was the experience or knowledge or reason that you came to believe this?
Mama Cacao brought it through super clear, and was able to that is a big part of what I believe her mission is to open up the hearts of especially the Western world and have us remember love. And so that's a big part of it, is the journey with cacao and Ecuador and South America and these ancient wisdoms that are coming through. And through being shown love and seeing it's slower than violence and anger and hatred. Those things are fast, and they create a slice really quickly, and the love takes a longer time to heal it over and scab it over and eventually make the scar disappear. But there is I'm not really answering your question. It is something that I have felt and have seen evidenced enough times that it is and learning to love myself also. I really attribute a lot of that to my partnership with Tiffany, where it was something she essentially insisted on, early on in a relationship that there are certain ways that I don't talk to myself and treat myself. And holding myself in that way brought consistent belief that it's something real instead of something kind of, I don't know, it's something for women to do or for my mom to do to me, or it's like it's something that I outgrow and then I eventually become a man. This started to dismantle when I started understanding
you mean
the power.
You outgrow the need for yourself to love yourself. Like that's not even necessary as a man.
I outgrow. My belief was that I outgrow that, the need for love, and that love is just kind of some extraneous soft thing. Mm-hmm. But the belief that replaced that was that it is everything, and it is under everything. Mm-hmm. And the things that we've been able to build on top of it are because of it and ultimately in service of it. But it's very easy to also fall into a trance or a seduction of the structure that makes love forgettable.
Mm-hmm. It's a distraction from it.
Yeah, it's very, very enticing and seems hugely important to focus on the thing that is for love instead of the love that it's for. If that makes sense.
Poetically, yes. Thank you.
But yeah, focusing on the design of a baby carriage, forgetting that it's carrying the miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the brand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how it works and how it functions and how much I want to shut out other brands of baby carrier makers, and it's like, y'all, it's for carrying babies. Let's stay like, come on, call your mother.
Right. just hold up, check yourself in that board meeting, and maybe reach out.
Right.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Right.
Feel what you're saying and how it feels to say those harsh words to others who maybe even aren't there.
Yeah.
But the desire to shut them down.
Yeah.
In the name of love is so confusing.
That reminds me of being in the corporate realm in the tech sector, and we would get together at these sales conferences, and we would talk about the competition constantly.
Right.
And I would walk away feeling like our focus was not on our customers and making their lives better.
Right.
Our focus was on beating the competition.
Right.
I mean, if we played a drinking game for how many times during the CEO's keynote speech, he said the name of the competition, we'd be hammered 5 minutes in. It was all about that. It's like, man, let's get our focus back on what our service is.
Yeah.
Right, and there's love underneath that.
Yeah.
So then you have the belief that you've come by, and you have some desire behind it for what is possible in the world. If the understanding that you've come to was more widely held, what would you like to see? What do you think is possible?
Which is the question? The belief that I want widely held, or what's possible?
No, if the belief that you just described to us was more widely held, what do you think is possible in the world?
Peace. And by peace, I mean a lot more silence and a lot more listening and patience. And honoring of those who are out of their, quote, productive years, unquote. Right? So the holding the young ones and the old ones in ways that are celebratory and kind. And I see, like you're naming, of much fewer mentions of the competition and more like curiosity about other people who are providing a similar product and maybe just getting together and providing one together instead of doing it better, and so that we beat them out and they die somehow. They corporately die. Their business dies. So. So many things that this is a bigger kind of can of worms, but I attribute pretty much everything that the humans do to entertainment, various kinds of entertainment. We entertain ourselves with everything: war, raising families, meditation, feeding ourselves. All of it is various forms of entertainment. And so the entertainment of competition is one that has a sickly nature. It is a really important piece to how we operate, and I think that there's a healthy version of this entertainment. But so often it is in the name of beating someone, and that I feel like is a distortion, a misunderstanding of how we can strive. And it's confusing. It's a confusing one, the competition piece. I don't want to get that and down that wormhole too far, but it was the entertainment was coming up in something you had said. But let's just move on. I don't know where I was going to go.
Let's do that. Okay, so all of this is kind of behind what you do in the world. So let's talk about what you do in the world.
Yeah.
Because I said a whole lot of things that probably don't mean a lot to people unless they hear some explanation of it. So let's talk about your work.
Cool. Where would you like to begin?
Well, there's so much of it.
What do I do? What do I want to talk about?
What do you want to talk about with respect in the context of what we just talked about?
Yeah. So connection, the word connection has really been brought to my awareness deeply through the masculine alchemy and men's work that I do with Sacred Sons. Mm-hmm. And we have this phrase, connection is the cure. Brotherhood is the medicine, connection is the cure. And the connection is the cure really comes through this famous experiment with rats and cocaine, and they were choosing cocaine more than food, and it was this big epiphany. And then what they realized later on is actually if they were put into a cage with other rats and other things to do, they would actually choose that over the cocaine. And so they were enjoying connection more than the thing they were physically addicted to. Mm. So this happens in men who tend to isolate as a solution to what is problematic and difficult. And so time and time again, we see men connecting to each other, simply making eye contact, being in close proximity to each other, which is so confronting. It can be so confronting. And taking a moment to simply be there with that, and then share some really deep things that they haven't shared before or maybe ever, and are simply heard. And it's not solved, it's not fixed, it's simply heard and held and honored. And that builds connective tissue, energetic connective tissue, that then can be chosen instead of, I'm just gonna fuck off and get drunk and just wallow in it and or follow my cocaine habit to prostitutes and whatever else is ultimately isolating, numbing down through technology and so many different ways. Exercise can be a huge isolating piece, right? There's addictive tendencies. So whatever the thing is that someone is addicted to, being witnessed in it, being seen by the tribe somehow, feels illuminating to what is in the dark. And if I am only managing it, then I don't need to necessarily, I know it's there, but I don't need to, it's different when you're like, I see that that's there. And it's like, oh, fuck, you see that. Disarm. Mm-hmm. And now I'm seen. Mm-hmm. And now I'm vulnerable. And I can hate you for it and I can fight you about it, but I'm still seen. Mm-hmm. And I still now have to deal with it because it's witnessed. Yeah,
it's a degree of accountability, actually.
Yeah.
Form of it,
Yeah. And it's super, it can be really frightening because it dismantles a lot of these entertainments or these things that we've built, these habits that we've built can then start to be dismantled, and then they need to be replaced with something else in order to stay stable, sane. Yeah. So that's a whole part of the process, but that's a large part of what I facilitate and hold space for. I'm blessed with a pretty wonderful life, and I've alchemized a lot of what was heavy for me. My relationship to alcohol shifted a lot and allowed myself to be a more clear and clean channel for what wants to come through and to be a conduit mover of energies for the men so that their things that feel immovable can be witnessed and moved.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to shift and talk about sacred sexuality. We're going to talk about masculine alchemy and some other things as well. We've got 4 minutes till we need to jump over to the Zoom call, but so I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I want to say to just confirm, I say out loud, I know it, but I want other people to hear it, is that you do this through various channels. Right, it's cacao ceremonies, the men's work through Sacred Sun. You do men's coaching one-on-one as well. There's a lot going on with Bryce Gill. you bring the same thing, but you bring it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and to illuminate the tag at the beginning too that you said might not make sense to a lot of people, being a broad spectrum pollinator. One of my identifications is it is always that I do this.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not because I'm always feeling great and I always want to, and I'm really touched in with my heart and my love, but I, as often as possible, and I feel the connection, bringing me life force, energy, when I connect with someone, and when I see someone bloom, when I see when they turn them from grumpy to fine and happy, just because I noticed something that they have on or whatever, grocery store, and I just say their fucking name, and they're like, whoa, I'm seen. I'm seen by someone who has no reason to see me, and that is the, as Brahar Saputo would say, living always in ceremony. This return, or not even a return, it's a consistent vibration of this pollination, of this love sharing, and giving and receiving, regardless of the depth. Tiff and I do a lot of work with death, and a lot of work with really intense shit, is what you could call it, but it is. Vehicles for connection is how I see them. So
beautiful. Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's do. Got a couple of minutes for housekeeping, and then we'll jump over to the live stream. Okay, before we jump over to the live stream, I would like to say that if you witnessed my last attempt at a live stream show with Nadi Hana, you're welcome. And if you missed it,
we love you, David.
And if you missed it, you're welcome. It was a train wreck shit show, and I want to give a shout out to Nadi because she was amazing. She hung in there. She focused. She didn't lose hope. Even when we dumped the live stream, we went over the Zoom call and had more technical difficulties. And she was in there. She's a consummate professional and a good friend, and I love her so much. And we had a good conversation. Still trying to pull something out of that technical wreckage to publish for you all. But thank you to Nadi for that. Also, I wanted to say that your support is what keeps the evolutionary going. And that support could show up in the form of time and attention, like watching the show, sharing it with others, just love, sending love to the show, sending love to each other after you listen to the show, whatever it is, and of course financial support as well. And you can show financial support by going and becoming a contributing member of the Evolutionary, where you can gain access to all of the after party recordings, which we're going to have an after party right now. You can also join them, and there will be other cool exclusive content there as well, and you can find that at theevolutionary.life. That's theevolutionary.life because .com is so last season. It's theevolutionary.life. And furthermore, for that, the last thing I want to say is for that section of good news and fresh perspectives, I'd like to crowdsource some stuff. So if any of you have anything that you would like to share, or that you think that I might like to share, DM me. Hop on my Instagram. And what is it?
Can you read this?
What does the teabag say? I can't. The essence of life.
The essence of life is to communicate love.
That
was a teabag.
That was teabag right now.
Thanks for picking that teabag, honey. That was a really nice one.
Well, I also want to say that I have a couple of people coming on pretty soon. Mariah Miller, Tiffany Baker, Jaden Hawkinson, all amazing people lined up in the coming weeks. And with that, I think we're going to jump.
Let's jump.
I'm going to dump and jump. So thank you all for being on the live stream show. If you registered for the link to the Zoom, it's time to do it. We'll see you over there in about 30 seconds.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.